All right, so who's going to be my first table? Okay, we got a table right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I don't know if I'll remember that again, but we're going to start over here. John's got the mic. We've only got one mic, so just ask for your patience. And then after you report out, would you mind handing your paperwork to John, your notes, for this session as well as the last one? John, we're going to go all the way over there. John, we're going to go all the way over there. Excuse my pointing.
Okay, so some of the solutions that we came up with were more cross-training for doctors, an ability to expand the vocabulary, to have better discussions, multiple options
Can you
for
hold on one
dealing.
second? Yeah. So you said cross-training for doctors. Would you
Right.
take a little deeper dive into that?
Sure. We were talking about the 9 hours that you have to do in order to learn about pain management, okay? My husband is a firefighter paramedic. He is required to complete a certain number of hours each year or he cannot work as a paramedic. So if the doctors aren't required to take the cross training and aren't being told that if they don't do it, they can't do their job, then that's a problem.
Okay. No, that's
Because
great.
they won't try to get better. They won't try to learn differently.
Okay. And we've got a little bit of cross-talking in the room. If we could just bring that down or eliminate it, that'd be great. Thanks.
We also talked about development of a more complete evaluation of your pain. You can't just point to a happy, smiley face or an angry face or 0 through 10 because sometimes it's bigger than that. We also talked about how the insurance needs to include more modalities other than medication. The first response can't always be, here, take this pill. And the bigger kind of broad discussion is that medicine needs to not be for profit anymore. We can't fix any of this until it's no longer a for-profit situation. You have pain management books that are written by pharmaceutical companies. How is that helpful? If the person who's writing how to fix you is making money off how they think you're going to be fixed, how is that ethical? How is that helpful? And then I guess the last thing was to take lobbyists out of medicine. Don't allow that to happen because then you don't know someone's true intention. To some people, you're a line item on a budget, but there's an actual face to that line item, and it's bigger than a number. And until that changes, unfortunately, a lot of this won't happen. So, thank you.
Thank you. That was excellent. All right, and then our next table is just John just behind, just the John towards the quilt. Yeah. That's a great line. There is a face, a life to that line item. All right.
Okay, so we have quite a few ideas over here. I was really struck by the documentation and medical health records piece. I think one solution to that could be recording each session you have with a physician and having that recording be automatically transcribed into an electronic medical health record. That way, there is no discrepancy. Every single piece of your visit has been documented, and there is no need to worry about that. And they can't change it. So that is definitely where we need technology to be strengthened, but I think that could really help everyone in this room. Maybe even expediting specialist approval, expediting funding for researchers who want to study chronic pain management, For transportation, we talked about either creating a voucher system with Uber and Lyft to partner up with insurance companies, because I've heard we can't rely on Access or other rideshare programs because they're so heavily impacted and used. So either get more drivers and larger fleet, or creating a new kind of voucher system.
Somebody add transportation to our sector outreach list.
And I just want to say I have been provided a lift to my medical. And Lyft takes me.
Excellent.
Some say our partner.
Go right ahead.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and if we could get your sheets, and then from this table, can we get your sheets from the first round?
Yeah.
Okay, I got the ones there from the second round for this round, but they weren't from the pain barrier. If I could get them all, that'd be great. And then we'll take the person waving her hands in the back. We'll be right there. I have to say, everybody, your enthusiasm is just so uplifting. Thank you for sharing that. So John, in the back, there we go. And what table is next?
Okay, we talked a lot about shifting the culture, and the way we would recommend doing that is starting with the higher education and to train medical professionals in listening skills. Be nice if they knew more about rare diseases, pain management, alternative modalities, and nutrition and other preventative maintenance kind of modalities, and to have more funding for research, and to encourage the insurance companies to pay for these alternative modalities, and have more scientific studies about the modalities to help show that they do work many times.
Woohoo! So we'll take your list, and then John, when you make your way over, and if it's on the table, you can leave it on the table. We'll take a picture. We'll come to the table. So John, we'll do this table right here, and then we'll move over and take this table next. I had gotten her from the last round. We'll come right and get you right after. Thank you.
We didn't have that much, but basically spending more time educating the doctors at the medical school level and having some sort of an oversight entity on the medical field itself. I'm sure there is one, but making sure that, if you are one type of a doctor, that you know a little bit about everything else as well. There should be some sort of cross-training within the medical field. And then the disparities in this little thing that we had, the national plan strategy, including, basically this one just said racial and ethnic minorities, that it should also include sex, age, and geographical area. And then money and legislation, funding.
Excellent. And we'll take your sheets if they're on paper, and then John, just behind that table. There we go.
We said get politicians to put pressure for accountability. Let's get to our senators and representatives. There should be more training for doctors, should be clearer medical information, ask for medical records. We should have better insurance. Why can't we get the same insurance as the Congress does? We'd have better medical care, and there should be no fighting in Congress over who gets what. Better, more understanding of medical professionals. They should learn to believe us a little more And maybe we should also get better acquainted with our physicians, and then maybe they'll listen to us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. John? Sorry, you're our only mic guy right now. So you know what, just to do a little easier wear and tear on John, we're going to go from this, we're going to take this table right here, and then we'll go over to you, and then we'll come over and grab you guys.
So
In fact,
before
you
I
might be
hand
able to
this,
hand it
okay.
off. What's that? Hand it off to her.
Oh, sure. Before I hand this to Doug, I'm just going to say one thing about how we can help support the National Pain Strategy through population research is hopefully by reaching out to certain research supportive alternative organizations. I would encourage you guys to all get familiar with the International Association of Yoga Therapists. These are certified yoga therapists that are all evidence and research based and can really help work with facilitating, integrating yoga and mindfulness in research and helping support protocol for research in either medical facilities or what's probably going on in Irvine, if they're hopefully going to maybe add a yoga certification, through IAYT. So population research can be done at the yoga level, and that could be really helpful. And then Doug is going to go and share all the things that here everybody at the table.
Go. Just to touch on, basically reiterate what we've already talked about. We required accountability on pain care for the doctors and the providers. Caregiver resources, a network program, strategies for bureaucracy reform, education and accountability for focus on patient and client relationship as well. Required. I said required. For all the doctors. Yes, required continued education and strategies for bureaucracy reform.
Thank you. When you say strategies for, well, hold on one second. When you say strategies for bureaucracy reform, can you give me a little bit of some examples?
Mainly communication, even with your healthcare provider and your doctor and your workplace environment. The communication for even your understanding reimbursement processes and your HR representative at work. That communication is a vital link that I always find is broken in some way with the other. Even your, like Kaiser we were talking about, even the in-home care doctors don't communicate with one another, even though their offices are directly across from each other, even though they're dealing with the same patient. So it's up to us to kind of make them aware and get that communication bonded, and the language too is important that we all been discussing.
Great, thank you so much.
So structurally, for the strategy, just one suggestion, instead of, a lot of national strategies tend to have lofty goals, like we're gonna eradicate malaria by 2020, but they don't actually say how they're gonna do it. So it could be helpful if they have lofty goals and then tactics that are actually measurable and tangible to get there. And on top of that, have specific guidelines for the stakeholders, so those engaging in the strategy, but also those that have to implement the strategy at their agencies in terms of what their particular actions are. Because a lot of times these national strategies are written, and then the individuals who have to actually implement them at their agencies have no clue how. So having these measurable goals would help them better assist everyone else. In addition to that, in more investment in prevention, so making occupational therapy support more mainstream. And what that means is that for a lot of times, if it takes a long time to get in to see a physician, you could go in and see a nurse practitioner or an occupational therapist in advance to allow with the prevention. Another is the equivocation of trade and of medicine. So a lot of times, and there's also an educational pipeline piece. So a lot of times individuals from other countries will come over and get educated in the medical profession in the United States. And then there's no space for them to get a job where we should actually be like stapling green cards to their diplomas. So allowing those who are educated in the medical profession within the United States to get jobs here, and also the equivocation of medical professions overseas to here. I mean, it's not uncommon to have a cab driver who was a physician or a doctor in another country. So being able to equivocate the trades and also equivocate medicines, and that goes into the fast tracking of FDA approval for medicines that are deemed acceptable and usable in other countries, allowing them to be used here. In addition to that, looking at technology being developed in the government, there's a lot of really great work coming out of NIH and NIST and some other agencies that will get through kind of this concept phase to prototype, and then it dies. And it's things that could really address integrative health in a very interesting way. So creating a pipeline for those technologies and really allowing them to get over this concept that's called the tech valley of death, and making sure that they actually get into mainstream and into the hands of the users. And then the last piece is more public education, but that goes into the destigmatization of mental health and other kind of chronic pain, and it's more of an identity piece. A lot of people really feel isolated and alone, and they don't feel like there's another individual who has this, and especially in chronic pain and in mental health, a lot of people don't want to admit that they have it because of the stigmatization that comes with it. And so just more education into the normalcy and that more people are dealing with this. And through the use of better communication channels, I mean, social media is everywhere. There could be forums and chat rooms, and just really using everything at our fingertips that already exists, but putting it into the strategy that people will actually use. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, in addition to what was said, like now, when you do need to speak to a counselor, there are services where you could actually talk to them on the phone or on Skype or video conference rather than having to wait 3 weeks from now for the next opening. I mean, I think telemedicine should be more mainstreamed over time, so that because then maybe these medical practitioners don't have to overcharge us because of the rent they have to pay for their space and other things, you know. I mean, we do it out like it is like what happens is if there are doctors out in the war zones and then there's another doctor that through video conferencing they can see what's going on and they could actually guide them through stuff. I mean, we could do that right here in America. We're 50 states, and not every part of America is all that accessible to a psychiatrist or to a surgeon. Look at what's happening in our rural areas where the opioid crisis is worse. It's practically because they feel very physically and socially isolated. So we should be having more broadband access in there so that at least they'll feel less isolated. And we could empower their nurse practitioners, their doctors and others to immediately treat people rather than having to wait to go to Houston or wherever to get treated. You know, there are definitely technologies that we could use to cut that sense of isolation. And we were also talking about the fact that we want our doctors to have more empathy, right? I mean, we've read that we know about people wearing pregnancy suits or wearing Alzheimer's suits. That should be part of medical school. Not that I would ever wish that would ever happen to them, but they have to know what it feels like. Use virtual reality and augmented reality so they could feel what it's like to be shot at or having your hands ringing and other things. So when they feel it more through the use of these more newer experienced technologies, it's like a bad version of a Disney ride, but it'll probably educate them to have more empathy and have more attention to, are you sure you're prescribing this person the right thing? Because you know you went to that really bad Disney ride that was, oh, okay, so yeah, at least that'll teach them, you know? And I was also thinking that here in America, everything is done either through relying through the government agencies to be funded or to for-profit corporations to get venture capital funding or stock markets or whatever. I'd like for us to use other types of corporate things that could help fund research and fund healthcare, like health cooperatives. Or we in California, we have flexible purpose corporations, social benefit companies. They're kind of underused because a lot of people don't know how they work. But for university in Asia, I also studied for a time in Europe, and I saw how these cooperatives work. I said, what's stopping us in America from doing something? It's not exactly a nonprofit, but it's a bit in between a nonprofit, but it's not a government agency. It's not a for-profit either. Like in a flexible purpose corporation, the goal is to meet that social need of healthcare and education, more so than meeting a shareholder return. Like, it would be nice to get a shareholder return, but the goal is that you at least break even or reinvest the surplus or profits into more education and to better technologies. I mean, we do need to change, in a way, how we fund and how we set up enterprises to meet these kinds of challenges. So those are some ideas that could help so that we can afford our own ergonomic chairs, we can make our own medicines and other things without having to be brainwashed by the pharma reps or all of these medical ads and lobbyists. We have to work from the grassroots also, not just waiting for the top to change. So that's
one thing to say. One thing quickly. Another thing that you made me think of is that as we were planning this summit, we're talking so much about the National Pain Strategy, and they call integrative medicine best medicine, which we love. As long as we all love it. So far, we were loving it, and we're learning from you, so much. But what we were learning from so many women and men in pain is that they don't have access. Not only do they not have access to integrative medicine, but they don't know what it is. That blew me away. I mean, Dr. Bob was saying something on a radio show about if you go out to rural America, it's hard to find somebody who even knows how to pronounce acupuncture. I mean, people don't even know what integrative medicine is. So there's a lot of education that we need to teach people what actually might be the best medicine for us, what I believe is. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, we want helpful modalities to be available to all people, not just West and East Coast liberals. So let me hand this over to you guys. And may I take your sheets? Thank you. Is this for the first round as well as the second? May I have yours as well? Great, thank you. All right, go right ahead.
Okay, one thing we have was addressing doctor arrogance. In addition to continuing education about pain, there also needs to be, more of the accountability of how their doctoring is affecting us psychologically. That is a big thing very common among many people. And also, there needs to, I'm still caught up on what there needs to be instead of focusing on solutions. So on solutions that do need to be happening is there needs to be more proactive assistance programs that are known about and by doctors and can be referred for when there are situations like a person can't fill out their own paperwork. So they're not getting the care they need because they're just not applying to anything because they can't fill out the paperwork and they can't get the assistance they need from their home situation. Simple things. Maybe there is somebody in a toxic, abusive situation that they need a different living situation, but they are in a state of disability prior to getting a diagnosis, and they need assistance with moving to a safe situation that can still accommodate for their needs. And that rolls into another problem where assistance, living and moving assistance that is appropriate for people who can't just take care of themselves, who might need a little bit of extra help. Those types of places are so few and far in between that they have waiting lists that are 3 years long. People go homeless and die for reasons like this, because there aren't enough of these. And what are there of them, people don't even know about them. to get to them. So that's why we need to go back to the proactive assistance programs, who, when we hear about these people having problems, that there is somebody who is sent out to where we think their residence is. And do you need help filling out paperwork to get this done? Okay, I'm going to be here next week to follow up with you to make sure that this did happen. And that provides more jobs.
Thank you so much. And I believe this is our final table. We've got it. We'll come back.
The first thing that we address, of course, the FDA, CDC, lobbyists, big pharma, they're all controlling medications and pulling the strings with a lot of healthcare. And they want to keep things the way they are. And one idea, it might be ridiculous, but I was, again, just spitballing. It'd be kind of interesting that instead of having big pharma be in control of medications, what if we had doctors, hospitals, pharmacists, nurses, a board of people per state with a state surgeon general in control of that state's particular medication needs, with the voting power belonging to the people of what doctors they're monitoring and making sure who aren't nuts or crazy, and or who aren't committing malpractice or anything like that, and kind of legislate within the boundaries of the state level. Again, it's far-fetched, but the current situation is definitely not working. And then going along with the pain strategy about the population study, one of the biggest issues, of course, is that immigration screws up the entire study completely, in beauty and attractiveness, age, gender, religion, it all skews that whole thing. And so in order to make that population study and study acute, chronic, and other types of chronic pain, it all goes back to, dropping our prejudices. It goes back to being people. And again, and that goes right into preventative care. People can't afford it. And so one idea for preventative care, it's kind of already in with Obamacare, that it's free for a lot of women who have health insurance, but a lot of people don't. And honestly, one idea that I was thinking about, that you could tie in public health and preventative care together. You could come up with some kind of subsidized, checkup for kids, and for adults, they could go to their public health centers, and you could have volunteer nurses or other people like that, and use that outlet. And then finally, I'm going to turn this over to my friend.
Oh, okay. Number 4. Okay, so, this is more on the point about disparities, particularly racial and ethnic. Of course, we need to address the prejudice among medical professionals that people of a certain color or background are just drug users, that they must just be getting into gang fights, and that's how they got their injuries. Another idea that we brainstormed at this table is to have some program where the doctors from the well-funded, prestigious schools will work in low-income areas, sort of like Doctors Without Borders, but within our own borders. On the point about public health, there's a lot of it comes down to money. That we have, for people who have insurance, there's the incentive for the hospital to keep you there as long as possible, because then that gets them the most money. And for people who don't have insurance, then your presence at a public medical facility is costing them money, so they just want to get rid of you as quickly as possible. And there's no mechanism pushing towards keep the person there as long as you need to actually solve their problems and then let them go. Can you spin this note here? Or perhaps I can just hand the mic back.
Yeah, and also in regards to like public health systems, you know, I think there's been a slight decrease in the interest of public health, you know, and not just at hospitals, but actual like the health departments in our small town communities. I'm from a small town in Indiana, and the health department there is like the scariest building, like downtown. Like the things these people see, it's horrifying. And I think that there should be an increase in school programs and access to public health so that students from middle school, high school, college, so they can learn about public health issues. And I don't mean just like generally about their own bodies, but like environmental issues and how things in the city work, because all of those issues are going to affect their bodies one day. I mean, look at Flint, Michigan. If the health department had done their job, you know, maybe nothing would have happened. Do you want to keep going?
Professional education? Sure. In professional education, it seems like the way it's worded seems a little misguided, because the problem isn't that the medical professionals don't know enough. It's an empathy issue, that they don't see patients as people. They see them as another number that needs to be run through the system. I heard some ideas going around about how we can improve empathy. We need to make sure that medical professionals are getting education in the humanities also, and in communication, because just adding more medical knowledge to their medical training is trying to solve the problem by doing the same thing that has caused the problem. We've talked a lot in this room about people with lived experience, sharing expertise gained that way. Well, rather than putting our focus exclusively on helping medical professionals, the ones who are already here, do a better job, why don't we improve education access for people with the lived experience, so that people from our community become the doctors that serve our community? And in my opinion, the most important way to do that is to enforce anti-discrimination that is based on, well, according to the law, we all fall under the Americans with Disabilities Act, so we already have the legislation in place. We just need better enforcement.
We're going to go back around and talk about things that have inspired you through hearing others' thoughts. So we're going to take some time to capture that. But I just wanted to throw some reflections. We're going to go to you first. Okay? I just want to throw some things in the pot based on some of the things I've heard you guys say. This last thing that we were talking about over here, it made me think of the fact that, you know, medical schools teach doctors certain coping strategies, you know, like how to be objective. Some of the ways that those strategies are taught may also be a barrier to empathy. Doctors do have to do self-care, but maybe some of the strategies they have or they're finding don't necessarily help them become better doctors. So that's something to look at too, is, sometimes, yeah, you have somebody who doesn't care, but other times you have a cross purpose, and that cross purpose is crossing your major objective. So I think that's something to look at. There were some sectors that popped out. One is we need to make sure we have telemedicine in the room at our summit. As we're talking, if you think of people or sectors or organizations that need to be invited to that summit that aren't on that list, please go ahead and add a sticky so we can include that. Those flexible purpose corporations, what a brilliant idea if you were measured by your effectiveness in treating that public challenge as opposed to just money. So those were just a couple. I'm just for time's sake, I'm taking notes, but those were just a couple of the things that you guys inspired through what you shared. And so we're going to go to this table over here, but we only have about 10 minutes, so let's keep it lean. But if there's something that you heard that you didn't originally mention, go ahead and share it with us. And it's fine to write things on your table, because we're going to go back and take pictures of your tables as well. All right, so John? Do you want to take the mic and go over to that table over there? Ma'am, would you raise your hand so I'll make sure John sees you? Okay, great.
Hi. Okay, so you were just talking about telemed, standardize the whole computer system so that the different disciplines, the different hospitals, the different places that people have been can all get the same language together so that everybody understands what's going on without having to worry about, I don't know which computer language they were using, so I don't know what they went through over there. So we want to put it all together so that it's the same and people understand it better. The different disciplines and the different doctors wherever they are. And that being said, then you talk about sensitivity, what Daniel was saying about sensitizing the doctors and the medical personnel so that you educate them so that they are more not just caring, but they do look at us as human beings. And the way I do it is don't assume that they don't care and have this kind of antagonistic attitude, but actually assume that they do care. They can't take that, Hippocratic oath? And so they say, well, do no harm, right? That's the whole thing, is hopefully that they actually do care enough. Maybe they just don't have the education. So us as patients, we're actually educating them. But we want them to also put their whole field into hopefully this whole strategy is going to help to educate them better. But you assume that they do care when you're talking to them. So don't talk to them like they don't know what they're talking about, but say, I'm just adding to the education you already have. Okay, so, and then also saying that, and talk about stakeholders, peer staff. Instead of just saying, well, we understand what's going on, actually hire people who have chronic pain, who have been through it, been there, done that, so that they can explain in the medical terms, using the terminology that the doctors are using, to explain this is how this person is actually suffering. This is the kind of the issue, the symptoms. These are some of the things that are going on. And add mental health to that, because people are going through depression just from having pain. I mean, I can tell you, and you all know in the room, talk about depression. It's not just depression, the anxiety you feel when you go, oh my God, I'm going to be in pain all day when I go to work, so I'm going to be anxious all day long. I don't want to deal with that. So those kinds of things, when you have peer staff, understanding that they can explain that to the doctors, explain that to the people who are treating you, so that they give you better treatment options. Okay, so, and then adding to that, interdisciplinary teams, having the doctors from different disciplines talking to the rheumatologist, talking to the surgeon, talking to the primary doctor, talking to all the different doctors coming together so that the treatment is a little more universal, so that they're not treating you. So they give you one treatment, and that actually could be not good for other treatment, or giving you one medication and then it causes contraindications to getting the other indication from the other doctor. So that's not going to work, because then you're going to have extra side effects from taking the wrong meds because this doctor said take something and this doctor said take something else, and you're going to really get sick. Okay, so let's see. Also, the holistic thing. Well, we've all talked about that, talking about integrative care, but also to have research evidence explaining why reflexology is going to help, why acupuncture is a very legitimate treatment. Qigong, Tai Chi, all these other different things that I hadn't heard before. So I'm just mentioning those. So add those things, but actually put the research in to explain and show the evidence that this stuff works. This stuff deals with my chronic pain. It's not just, we're talking about accountability and showing how this is going to work so that it becomes an evidence-based treatment.
Excellent. Did I see a hand over? Do we have any other thoughts that people want to put into the conversation? Take a look around. Okay, we've got a gentleman over there by the wall. Thank you.
Hi. I would personally like to have access to Watson, the IBM computer that's in Cleveland, that they put all of the medical database in, so that if you've got people with undiagnosed conditions, we have access to Watson so the computer can say this could be what it is.
Excellent. Other ideas? Other thoughts? John over here.
Thank you.
There is a type of pain medication that has largely been ignored despite a great deal of science proving otherwise, and I think it's an embarrassing amount of time that we have not decriminalized marijuana on a national level, at least for medical use.
Yeah, it's even more shocking that you have things like CBD that have no psychoactive properties, and you can't get those either.
It's me again. So one of the things I've noticed, again, for those of you who don't know, I have been working with people specializing in the care and prevention of injuries for dancers and athletes for over 15 years before I went down my rabbit hole of chronic pain almost 2 years ago. But what I had noticed over the years dealing with injured dancers and athletes who are very high functioning, don't present during assessment, is that they wound up in a life of chronic pain that could have been just stopped at the acute pain level had they had been listened to, evaluated properly. So I work with a community that is mostly the hypermobile, like very flexible community, and very high functioning. And we do not present at evaluation, so we wind up ignored and not getting the proper diagnosis. So it's really important that if you do know anybody who does seem like they're going down the rabbit hole of chronic pain, please help them be their own healthcare advocate, to really start journaling or writing down, or just really writing down notes of when their pain is better. Help them focus on the better, what makes things feel better or what alleviates it, what are the triggers, and then they'll have an awareness to have this written down, so when they get to the doctor, which can be very stress-inducing, which causes them to get a little agitated, so the medical professional may not take them seriously or just sees them as an anxious male or female. You need to learn to relax. You need to breathe. How are you taking care of your diet? And these are amazing athletes and dancers who looked great 2 months ago, but now look like wrecks. So if you may have a friend or a loved one that is starting to go down that rabbit hole, don't discuss your pain with them. It's not going to help them. Just go, I see you're going through something. Here are some great resources, because we also don't want to fuel their flames because they're going down their own journey. So we have to honor our pain journey as well as those around us. So really try to advocate for education versus pointing fingers, because we can all bitch and moan about the medical professionals out there, But I was fortunate that I had learned a lot from the people I had helped, and I saw what they went through, that I was able to help myself a little, but I really needed a network. So we need to go out there and be the voices and advocate for others, and even be that shining light that we're functioning people. I look great out in the real world. Hey, I don't look the way I did last year. And that's also hard. So I encourage people to also maybe create a resource here for also grief management, because we forget that with loss of mobility, we lose our identity, we lose our income, we lose our loved ones, we lose our friends. So we also have to deal with grief, because that is part of that biopsychosocial model. And if we don't know that, educate ourselves about it. When you have downtime and you can't get to the doctor's office, we got computers, hopefully, or we can get a book, or we can do an audio book on our little iPhone, and libraries have amazing resources. You can do audio library stuff, you can watch videos. Make yourself useful for yourself. Empower yourself, because we can bitch and moan around about everybody in this world, but what my grandma always used to say, you've got 2 legs, use them. If you can't use them, use your brain. And you know what? We at least are all sitting here in this room right now, and we are breathing. And again, I talk about yoga. If you can breathe, you can do yoga. You do not have to get your leg above your head. That is not advanced yoga practice. So I encourage you all to just take a moment, use your breath as your body's voice, have a beautiful conversation with yourself, ask your body what your body needs, and then take it from there. Ground yourself, see what you need, and then hopefully you'll be able to better communicate with your healthcare professional. And then maybe they might chill out too, because they're seeing a lot of hurt people who come to them. That is very stressful. So we have to remember they're also a human being. They're loved by someone, loving others, providing for others, and they probably have a lot of stress too. Thank you.
Thank you. And Cynthia?
Wow. You know what? I was one of those high-level dancers, and if I had you and this group and the National Pain Strategy and integrative care, I wouldn't be sick today. I really believe that. And I love what you said about doctors. We don't want to just bitch and moan about doctors here. I mean, it's so much about empathy for doctors. As Dr. Bob said today, remember, they got 9 hours. They get 9 hours of training about pain. I mean, wow. That's not fair to the doctors. I mean, there are a lot of good doctors out there. And that's, I can't believe I'm saying that after being abused for 15 years, but there are so many really great doctors out there. Mine are actually integrative doctors, but there are great Western doctors too, I know that. I know that they don't want to hurt us. They didn't take the hypocritical oath, they took the Hippocratic oath. And I know that because of lack of education, they just, honestly, they don't know how to help us so often, and that's why they push the problem onto us. And so we need to, I'm hearing in my own head, we need to educate the doctors, we need to educate these kids in medical schools so that they have a different way of medicine. And that's what's happening, and I just keep thinking that. Thank you.
So if we just implemented 25% of the brilliant, amazing, heartfelt, phenomenal ideas that have come out of this room, how much more improved would our standard of care be? Yeah. So our task is to, did you want to add something, John?
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to share just one piece because it was so helpful to me on my own journey, was that we're often not taught, that there's no discussion around how chronic pain actually works in a body, and understanding how pain works within our body is a very empowering experience, that it allows us to take active steps, because we often will give up a lot of our power or ability to be an active participant. We are always active participants in the discussions, and we hope that the doctors will listen to us. But I think if we are able to be educated about our own body and how our body functions, we find that there's a whole lot that we can do to alleviate some of the suffering, whether it be physical pain or the emotional pain associated with having chronic pain. There are two things that I think we need more discussion around that have not been discussed enough, and there's not enough research behind it. One is the impact of trauma on the susceptibility of us to develop chronic pain. And the second one, and this is really cutting edge, and yes, doctors are not getting educated enough. There's just not enough of the new information is being transmitted to doctors, or doctors aren't feeling comfortable enough to share it because there's not enough research to back it up. But I can speak to neural reprogramming as being a very effective method in addressing chronic pain.
Say that again?
Neural reprogramming, so utilizing neuroplasticity through very simple daily techniques to reprogram pain. And I've been able to stop pain that I had for many, many years that was debilitating to an extent that I'm able to enjoy life again. And it doesn't mean that there's no pain, but when the pain appears, I have a perspective that is very supportive and helps me to have many days without pain.
New World Reprogramming?
Neural. And you can ask me about it later. I teach it, so you can ask me later about it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have one more comment over there. John?
Probably a good time.
Okay, and then we have one comment over there, and then we will move on with the rest of our program.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the brochures on time due to the physician's ability to receive them. It has nothing to do with speaking on my opinion on physicians in general or anything like that. I'll try and keep it short. I just know that sometimes every year when we come, we meet and we try and discuss things that have helped us with chronic pain. I have been doing some experimental therapy that has helped my fibro. Now, given when I give the information of what type of therapy it is, it may offend some people because it might offend you politically if you're a conservative, but it's stem cell therapy. It has nothing to do with hurting the babies. Babies are not hurt at all in this process. What happens is parents are compensated for their baby's umbilical cord, and you can pay, and they are based out of Irvine, and they take the stem cells from the umbilical cord, they give it to you through an IV. Some people have it injected directly into their joints, but I've had 2 sessions so far for my fibro, and I've noticed that it's helped my knees and my elbows, and it's also been slowly helping the fatigue that I have. The unfortunate part is that, yes, it is costly, but there is a physician in Pasadena who does do aesthetic surgery, but he's also certified to administer these stem cells. If anyone is interested in receiving any information about this physician, I know him personally. We text on a regular basis, and I can give you his name, the number to his office. He's extremely kind and professional, and no, when you go there, you don't need to have something aesthetically done. It's just, he just happens to be certified because you have to take a course to do it. And he knew about the pain conference that was going on today, and I asked him if it was okay if I could speak on it, and he said that that was fine. So if anyone's interested towards the end, feel free to come up to me so I can give you my name, so this way he knows that I forwarded, not because I get a discount or anything like that. I don't get any type of special treatment. It's just so that this way he knows that you're there not to like get something revised. You're there because you want to get stem cells. So it's just something that helped me, and I know that there's a lot of people that are desperate to get help. So if you have the means and can do it, then I'll be more than happy to give anyone the information that would be open to it.
Excellent. Thanks so much for speaking up and sharing that resource.
Okay, a couple things. One thing I remember, even, and I've been in mental health for a very long time, but just dealing with regular doctors, and just in general, they think they know how to treat us. Like they're there to help us, so they tell us how to help ourselves. They know how to treat us. And I think what has to change in this whole medical model mentality is that we know our bodies. We have to live with our bodies 24/7. So we're going to know more about what our bodies react to, how do they deal with stuff, whatever meds are coming in, whatever treatments you're getting. If you've had that treatment before, then you know how it's going to affect your body. So I think more of that education to the medical field is about that. It should be more of an integrative experience of that we're having a partnership between the patients and the doctors, that we're understanding just as much about what we deal with, what we go through, what works and hasn't worked for us, and our understanding and knowledge should be just as important as what they're going to tell us. So if we can keep that in mind when we're talking to them and help them understand that that's what needs to happen in the office when I'm talking to my doctor. Guess what? I know a lot too, and not just to say, well, you're not the God. Is that let's be together on this. That's the kind of experience I want to have with my doctor when I go into the office. It's not just about money and you're getting paid. It's more about I'm here to get healed. So let's talk about healing each other together. And maybe you might even tell him something or her something that they didn't know before. So that's my thing, is we know our bodies very well. And also, there's something called the RAP plan in mental health. It's called Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And we talk about how to write down an action plan when we're doing better. So I'm thinking when I'm in less pain, maybe if I could write down what kind of symptoms I'm having, what kind of things work, what my loved ones should know, so that if I fall apart and I can't talk to them and tell them when I'm in this much pain, this is what's happening to me, which doctor understands my treatment, which doctor knows me well enough, which one knows what works, so this is the doctor I want you to call, this is the place I want you to take me to. So maybe if that's something as a plan, you can write that down ahead of time when you're not in so much pain, and explain that, so that when that happens to you, then you don't have to be, while you're going through this pain, try to explain all that information. And maybe that'll help you the next time you're going through some kind of episode or whatever is happening to you.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Listening to all of you, it just underscores something that I believe very deeply, which is the wisdom is in the room. The people who show up, they have a tremendous amount of experience, and what it's calling to me is that maybe we need a follow-up roundtable where we're hearing tips from each other of things that have been effective and helped us, strategies, as well as what alternative care or other types of care have been effective. So there's just so much knowledge in the room, so much knowledge we know through our lived experience. That'd be nice to have an exchange about that. So stay tuned. We'll look at the feasibility of doing that. Maybe we can do it virtually. One of the other things I've heard today is that people would like a chance to connect geographically. And so if there was some way for people to find out who is in their own area and their own region, that would be something that people would be interested in. So again, we'll look at how we can accomplish that, so stay tuned. Our next step is to plan the Change Agent Summit Part 2. What we're hoping to do is gather these thought leaders. We're going to ask them some slightly different questions, but what we want to know is how can they take this national pain strategy and put it on the road? How can they hear these barriers and create effective strategies to get through them, to get to the other side of them? And then how do we standardize that care so that people who look different, are different ages, aren't discriminated in different geographic areas, people with different amounts of money aren't discriminated against? So that's our next step. And then what we're hoping to do is at the end of the day, do a silent auction in reverse,
where we say, okay, here are the ideas that we've come up with. So we want you to tell us who out here is already doing these things, and tell us what you're already doing. And so we'll get some accountability by finding out what three things. A, what are you already doing? B, what could you add to the next 18 months to 3 years of your work without, a significant imposition? What are you willing to commit to? And then 3, if you had additional resources or additional partnerships, what could you do then? And then we have a shopping list to go out to funders and say, look, we have the willingness of people to do these things. So we think that moving forward that strategy could make a big difference. It's really important to have the right people in the room. So once again, I'm going to ask you if there's a sector or an organization that is not on this sheet, please go ahead and add it. Just either write it on the sheet or take a sticky and put it on here. If you happen to think of alternative care that's been effective to you, write that on the table. We're going to come around and take pictures of the table. And what I want to leave you with, and then Cynthia and John come up and do our closing, and we're just going to ask you for another 5 minutes for those of you who are able to stay. For those of you who are not, thank you. Thank you so dearly. Thank you so much. I'm going to quote a quote that's used sometimes maybe too often, but I don't think it can be used enough. Many people here today urged you to be the change you want to see in your life. Be the change agent for yourself. A lot of times when we want something, we can get it by beginning to give it to ourselves and to others. So think about some of the things today you said you wanted and see if you can make a practice of giving that away, not just to others, but also to yourself.
Thank you, Mindy. Thank you. That's spectacular this whole afternoon, and I'm glad we still have a number of folks here in the afternoon. That's great. It's been a long day. I just want to do a little fun thing before Cynthia and I wrap it up. I've got a few items here that were donated that I'm quote unquote we're going to raffle off, but we really don't have a raffle. So what we're going to do is a little quiz, a little popular quiz, and see. And whoever pops up with the first answer that's right. We'll get, we have 4 Dr. Nick's neck nappers. These are suckers that you put right behind your head. You lie down, and it kind of gives extends out your neck, a little traction. I do use one. It's fantastic for neck strain and shoulder strain and a lot of different strain. You can, knock your partner on the head with it. Anything. It's got a lot of things. So anyway, I've got 4 of these to give away, and also then our grand prize is the Fibro Cream sash. So here's the rules. I'm going to pop out a question. Whoever comes with the first answer, that's right, gets it, and then you're, disqualified for any more of this nonsense. So here's a quick question. Okay, Mindy's going to get it. Whom did America's most famous widow, Jackie Kennedy, marry in 1968? Onassis, very good, Jack. There we go.
Are we shouting out or raising hands?
I'm sorry, shouting out. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I apologize. Okay, let's do hands. And then from now on, we'll do hands. Okay, first hand.
Take a sweep of the room.
Yeah, I know. I'm okay.
I'll go take the mic.
In what location did Martin Luther King deliver his speech, I Have a Dream?
What? So John, we're going to ask you to go to that side of the room right now, so that,
because these, okay, guys, here we go.
Yeah, we said we were going to raise hands.
Okay, I know.
So let's hold the question, raise your hand. We're going to look at this side of the room right now.
Let Mindy call from now on. Okay, here we go. That's right.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of excitement, and it's well said. So we're recalibrating, and we're saying, raise your hand, hold the question.
Mindy's going to call it from here on in. I'm just going to ask the question.
And if you call out, we're going to disqualify you now. Okay?
Don't call out the question. Pop up your hand. Okay. This obviously wasn't scientifically
let's appreciate
done.
the excitement.
Okay. Which Republican candidate lost the 1996 presidential election to Bill Clinton?
Okay, I saw your hand come up just a second before.
And I just lost it. Thank you, Fibro. You're going to have to give it.
Bob Dole. This
okay.
is correct.
Now we'll look over here. We just want to give some parity if you're looking in one direction.
Okay,
it's hard to see.
Okay, Mindy, here we go. This is, These are all political. Okay, what was, I'm going to just throw this one out because we're in LA. What was the last year the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series?
That was a first hand up.
1988 is correct, and for a bonus, well, you know, who did they beat? Okay.
Anybody know who they beat?
The Oakland Athletics, of course, my favorite team. So there we go. Okay, we got some. Well, here we go. We got a couple more items here. This is a Battle for Grace book with a CD. So we got two of these. Yeah, Cynthia, believe me, I would give that. Okay, okay. In 1996, President Clinton appointed. This is a good one. The first woman ever to serve as Secretary of State. Who is she?
Okay, first hand up was green. Yeah.
Madeleine Albright is correct. Yes. So there we go. We're moving on. We got other stuff here. Okay. Since this is okay, I'm sorry. This is obviously not well thought through. Okay. 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 Well, if I can't answer it, I'm certainly not going to ask it.
Well, John, they might know it even if you don't.
Oh, no.
We got a lot of smart people in this room.
I know. Well, this is not one of them right here. I know.
I think he's just trying to set y'all up for success.
Oh, Lordy. Well, okay, this might be a good one. What was the name of the hurricane which devastated South Florida in August 1992, especially the Homestead area south of Miami, leaving 250,000 people homeless?
The woman in the striped shirt had her hand up first. Andrew?
Ooh, very good.
Okay.
Obviously, were you from South Florida? Oh, okay. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, moving on. All right, we have these are a couple books from the Chronic Pain Anonymous group that Kathy Tom in the corner there is a part of. It's a wonderful group. So we'll just move on.
Thank you, Kathy.
I think she has left us in the what is it? These are crazy.
Just try and ask
it. Are these sponsored by? Okay. Okay. What is the two-word name for the moment around September 21st of each year when day and night are approximately equal in length?
Okay, we're going to have you answer. Oh, it's close. Are we gonna? This lady over here in the white shirt's the next fastest hand.
Well, let's see what
So repeat the question. We'll give you one more shot. And
what is the two-word name of the moment around September 21st of each year when a day and night are approximately equal in length?
Do you have it? You had one word right.
You're in the ballpark.
Okay, so.
Let's see if we get.
Ooh. And that is actually today.
That is today, yes.
That is today.
So here
sorry?
you are, stories of hope.
It happens to be the equinox today.
There we go. That is today. That's right. It was 1 o'clock today. It was 1 o'clock. We are into autumn, by the way. So there we are. Okay, we're just got a couple more things here. Let's see. Okay, this has a dubious history, but here we go. What automobile was first introduced as the people's automobile in 1937?
This young lady right here.
No, yeah, I'm sorry, you're disqualified if you've won.
Okay. So the lady in the beige was the second fastest hand.
There it is, a Volkswagen. During Adolf Hitler's reign. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so we've got a couple more things here. Also, by the way, just these two bags here have shirts that were donated by Beauty Bus. Please look through them. They're nice shirts, and they're just take them as you will. Yeah, okay, I'll bring it back over there. I promise you. Okay. Ooh, here. This is a good one. Why is February 2nd a day of celebration in Puxtawny, Pennsylvania. Okay. Oops.
John, what did you?
I don't know. We got
I
to.
think you were the first person.
Groundhog's Day is correct, and you are getting a bounce back stack of cards to enjoy and to be inspired by.
Would you do me a favor and take one of those bags over to that side of the room?
Right.
Okay. Is there one more question, John?
We have 2 more items here, and then we're going to.
Two more.
I know. Can you believe this? I know. The day that would never end. What day was that? No. Okay, here we go. Okay, this one. I bet you get this one. On May 18, 1980, and this is we're going to get Color's astrology book. Color astrology book. May 18th, 1980, the mountain in the Pacific Northwest erupted after being dormant for 123 years. Which mountain is it?
Okay, you haven't won anything yet, right? You had your hand up the fastest of somebody who hasn't won anything.
That's it, Mount St. Helens. There we go. Okay, there we go. I don't know what that does exactly, but it says something. Okay, so this is it. This is the big one. Well, I don't know. It's the big one. This is the Fibro Cream from our sponsors at Top Percent.
Everybody gets to win a prize. If you've already won one, enjoy that you won.
Our friends at Toperson who have donated a lot of nice items to us over the years. Okay. What the heck? Okay, that's a little dicey. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, here we go. This is for the big one. Okay, what prison in France was stormed by the common people on July 14, 1789?
Okay, before we answer, have you won anything yet? Okay, so you were the first fastest hand?
Bastille Day. Yes, the Bastille. There we are. You are a winner. You are a winner. There you go. Thank you, Mindy, for tolerating that.
Sure. So, Cynthia? And as Cynthia's up on stage, I just want to mention that there's contact information for True if you have any questions at the bottom of the page with the CREA. If there's anybody else that spoke today that you want to reach out to For Grace, and we'll do our best to make the connection. And Cynthia, take it away.
Thank you. How can I follow that act? Wow. Okay, so thank you everyone who stayed in the room, who's still here. I think we did it. I wrote down notes about what we were supposed to do, so let's go over them. Our voices were definitely heard loud and clear today, right? We agree? Yeah? Okay. Did we capture all the ideas and feelings that happened in this room? Yes, we did. Okay, so we accomplished that. Yay! And yes, okay. So as mentioned this morning, everything gleaned today will then be shared with the luminaries who attend, the thought leaders who attend our summit part 2 that will be hosted on November 2nd, 2018. And as a reminder, our goal is to implement the NIH's National Pain Strategy here in California, be a model for the rest of the country, with a loud, clear voice from the patients and caregivers. Okay, to stay engaged with the process, everybody, please watch our webcast next year. We're going to have a World Café afternoon just like this, so you'll know exactly what's going on. And then, let's see, after that event, we're going to sum up all of the results. Well, we might do a round table too now, we're talking about that, which I really like. Then we'll sum up all the results and post them on For Grace's website at the beginning of the year. So in 2019, when we convene again in this year to do a grieving conference, we will have made really big change. So, gosh, I want to thank the California Endowment for this wonderful venue again, community partners just upstairs, LA County Office of Women's Health, tvplive.com, and Rich Tamayo. Love you, Rich. We miss you. Come out here, Rich, as soon as we're done. All the volunteers, you did like triple soissons duty today. You're amazing. Long story there. Volunteers, please come back next year. If I didn't talk to you, please come back. You're wonderful. All of you in this room, please applaud yourself because you did the work. We're in the middle of this thing. We're going to get it done. I'm so proud, everybody. Okay, all of my sisters, I love you all so much. Radine, Marie Cook, thank you for your art gallery, Radine. Can I swear? You're a fucking phenomenal, Radine. I hope you heard me. John, I never think, I'm sorry. Ballerinas can talk. Okay, we have just dirty minds. And John, I never thank you. Thank you. And I want you to come back to bed again. It's been 2.5 weeks. We have one night, we're going to Amsterdam tomorrow for work. So tonight should be really, no, I'm just kidding. Should be really amazing now that I'm getting really, anyway, getting a net dirty mind. Okay, so, and last but certainly not least, I thank our architect, my sister Mindy Meyer. You are amazing. I have nothing but clean, wonderful things to say about Mindy Meyer. And please don't pitch me another idea for a while because we're going to work on this one. We're making it happen, sweetheart. Your dream. My dream now too, all of our dreams.
And thank you all for showing up because with a good idea, it's just a good idea unless people make it happen. So thank you for making it happen today.
Right. So, no photos? Okay, so no photos. So are we done? I think we're done. We're done for the day, but stay tuned, everyone, because there's lots more to come. This was such a huge success. You, ladies and gentlemen, are so smart. Thank you. Thank you.